Welcome everybody to another episode of Bet What Happens Live, presented by Bet365. I am Nick Giffen, and this time I have my touchdown show partner in crime, Gilles Gallant. Gilles, what do you make of that first half so far up to the 2-minute warning?
Well, you were speaking about the touchdown show. We got J.K. Dobbins there in the second quarter, so now we are each 2 for 2 so far today. I've still got Joe Burrow left in this game, and you're still waiting on Dalton Schultz for tomorrow.
Absolutely. So, Gilles, I know you were talking about some injuries that the Bengals have suffered, and I think that's pretty important because it's to their offensive linemen. Joe Burrow has already been pressured 31.8% of his dropbacks, and now we've got some more injuries.
Yeah, so Jonah Williams, starting left tackle, is shaken up. We're going to see if he'll come back later in this game, but they're already down 2 starters in the offensive line. So it should be very interesting to see when this half closes out where Joe Burrow's passing yards is going to close out at.
Definitely, and with all that pressure that Joe Burrow has faced, and with an extra offensive lineman down, as we're watching the live replay right now, you see Williams' injury. He's gone to the locker room. That doesn't look good. Joe Burrow, sacks, interceptions. This could be a spot to maybe take a play on his interception prop. I know you have his anytime touchdown,
well, of course,
and that doesn't rule out a touchdown, but it also makes it more likely, as we see a botched snap here for the Ravens, it makes it more likely that there could be an interception for Joe Burrow as well, and somehow the Ravens make a play out of that wild, crazy situation there.
Another catch from Josh Oliver, who started the game with a reception and now is almost closing out the half here as well.
Absolutely. So I'm just updating some live numbers here. Gus Edwards on that prior play had a 5-yard rush, so he is up to 21 rushing yards on 5 attempts. J.K. Dobbins, 8 rushing attempts for 38 yards. So it looks like Dobbins is, as we expected, playing the lead back role. Gus kind of the secondary back, and Tyler Huntley's had a few rushes mixed in there, 3 times for 9 yards, now 4 for 13. So, yeah, we're seeing a situation where Baltimore happy to run the ball. They've only thrown it now 9 times, as we're watching right here, 8, and then this is the 9th passing attempt. So Tyler Huntley completed that last pass to Josh Oliver, who has 19 receiving yards,
and we have Justice Hill too now.
Yeah, and we have another injury. It looks like potentially saw somebody down on the field, a Bengal down on the field, and Justice Hill, a 9-yard reception for the Ravens. So another running back there, and I can't tell who it is down, but I didn't see who it was. But another injury for the Bengals. So. We have 37 seconds left in the first half. Gilles, if we had to make a bet right now, we don't, but if we had to, or if we, were to, where would you start looking?
I'd be starting to look at the Bengals receivers, specifically in the slot, like a Tyler Boyd or a Hayden Hurst, who just had a critical fumble there. Looking at maybe some unders and just maybe over-under, looking at what their passing yards are at and if there's any value involved.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst did have that critical fumble, and as you and I talked about on the touchdown show this morning, Hayden Hurst, Tyler Boyd, they operate in the slot, in the middle there, and that's actually the worst portion for Bengals receivers because the Ravens are so strong over the middle and stronger in the shorter portion of the field defensively. So this definitely seems like a spot where, even though this game is getting closer, if we look at the live win probability, according to Bet365, the live market has the Baltimore Ravens 45% to win this game, which is up from the pregame odds. So definitely just a spot here where if the Bengals need to throw more, the line could be inflated for the Bengals receivers, but that means we could take the under on these guys over the middle. So do we have any live numbers on the Bengals receivers, either Hurst or Tyler Boyd or anything like that? And I will pop them in and see what the model says.
So both Hurst and Boyd are trending towards lower than what they were opening at. So Hurst right now at 30.5, while Tyler Boyd is at 26.5.
All right, so Hayden 30.5, Tyler Boyd 26.5, and it looks like we are showing overvalue on both. So, but it's very thin overvalue. So it's not anything I want to bet yet. We probably want to reach halftime, see if the Ravens score here,
and we may see these lines adjust,
settle things out exactly, and then the live print win probably would adjust as well. Also, looking forward to the second half, one of the things that's very important is which team is going to start with the ball. Since the Cincinnati Bengals started with the ball in the first half, the Ravens, they actually get to start with the ball in the second half here as well. So it makes me like those overs even less that we were showing value on Hurst and Boyd. Bad matchup. They're not going to have the ball anytime soon, so definitely we're not going to take those overs. But we aren't also showing value on the unders, so not a spot I want to take the unders. Where might we look next?
Well, from a Ravens perspective, since they are getting the ball at the start of the second half, your boy J.K. Dobbins has looked pretty good so far and has outsnapped Gus Edwards, 8 carries so far to 3 carries. And I'm thinking that J.K. Dobbins right now, looking at his live rushing yard prop, right now it's off the board because we are still in the red zone here. But, you know, I've got to think that it's going to probably be in the 75 range by the time this drive is over.
Yeah, interesting enough. And so he does have 38 rushing yards. Let's just say it was in that, 75 range you said?
Yeah, it was at 72.5. It's been off the board pretty much.
Yeah,
if it
was 72.5 though, we're showing value on the under, but then again, right, they have the ball now. They'll start the ball the second half. So again, just another spot to avoid, and that's a good thing. If we're in line with the market, we have a good statistical model.
Absolutely.
And you want that to happen sometimes. I've come away on Bet What Happens Live with having 0 bets just because we're not showing value anymore.
Don't force it.
So we do, again, have the situation. So unfortunately, there's an injured Bengal down on the field. The Baltimore Ravens do have the ball 1st and 3. What about anytime touchdown bets? I know they're off the board right now because they're so close to the end zone. But where would you, as the touchdown guy, where would you look first, potentially?
The first player that I'd want to look at is T. Higgins. Now, I had bet T. Higgins pre-game, but the way that this game script is going, you think that, especially with Burrow's passing yards around the 270 to 280 range right now, you got to think that they're going to be throwing more, especially to Chase and Higgins, and I think Higgins could be able to score in this game.
Yeah, definitely. So that last rush, we had the injury. It was to Eli Apple, and then so another big injury for the Cincinnati Bengals, and then right after that, Gus Edwards had a 2-yard run. So just kind of a spot where we're just in a holding pattern until halftime. Odds are off the board. There's been some injuries, right? There's a pivotal play coming up on 1st and goal from the 3-yard line. So once that happens, we will definitely take a look. T. Higgins anytime touchdown. We could potentially take a look at, Samaje Perine if the Bengals fall behind. Samaje Perine has a pretty good matchup against the Ravens, who struggle in the pass-catching game to running backs. So that would be one I'd be interested to look at as well.
Well, another player, just because we've seen Josh Oliver have some success right now, I'm wondering if there might be any value on Isaiah Likely, whether it be for receiving yards or a touchdown in this game. Now, it has been off the board a little bit here for receiving yards, but looking at Isaiah Likely, it was around 5.5 yards before it went off the board.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, again, if there is value on the over-under. It would seem like you would think that it would be value from an over standpoint because you could probably get that in one catch. But
definitely,
I don't want to project that until we know what the numbers are.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a spot where we want to. I think we just got to wait out this first half, or at least this 1st and goal.
Let's see what the Ravens do here.
We definitely have to wait out this 1st and goal. We may not have to wait out the first half because if the Ravens score here, it's very likely the Bengals get the ball with few seconds left. They may take a stab or two, but it's pretty unlikely that they score. So we should have a good idea after these first play or two here for Baltimore. Obviously this series of 4 downs. And it looks like Huntley is rolling out. He throws it back towards Mark Andrews, and they lose a yard or 2 on that play. So it is going to be 2nd and goal from about the 4-yard line, and we're going to knock 1 yard off of Tyler Huntley's passing yard total and 1 yard off of Mark Andrews' receiving yard total there with that play. So Baltimore takes another timeout here, so we're at 16 seconds left in the half, and we'll just kind of have to, once again, wait and see where things shake out. So currently as it stands, Tyler Huntley has 70 passing yards. Josh Oliver leading with 26 receiving yards, leading all Ravens. And it's one of those things where, yeah, it's kind of a shot in the dark at which Raven is going to lead the team in receiving because their wide receiver core is kind of decimated.
I don't even know if they have a wide
their
receiver
quarterback
core.
is,
You have DeMarcus Robinson and Sammy Watkins out there. I don't even know if that would even
exactly. And so they just got a very tough receiver situation where it could be anybody who catches the passes. So Oliver leading with 26, Andrews 13 receiving yards, Sammy Watkins 12 as that pass goes incomplete, and we are at 3rd and goal now for the Baltimore Ravens. DeMarcus Robinson 8 receiving yards, J.K. Dobbins the 2 critical receiving yards for a touchdown. And once this play happens here, we should have a very good idea because it's 3rd down. It's either touchdown here or get it really close to like 4th and 1 to maybe sneak it in. Or if you don't have a successful play here, they probably end up kicking the field goal to take a 10-9 lead.
That's right.
To go into the half. And not a great throw there by Huntley on that replay. So 3rd and goal from the 4-yard line, and it looks like there was a false start on Baltimore. So actually, they did take a timeout. It was Cincinnati that took a timeout. There was no issue there. So while we have a moment, I want to make sure to remind everybody that Bet What Happens Live is presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365 exclusive sign-up offer in New Jersey, Colorado, and now Ohio. Bet $1 on any game, get $200. So, Gilles, we are now coming up here on 3rd and goal. We didn't end up having a play there because Cincinnati ended up taking a timeout. So I'm just going to real quick update the live odds. It looks like we're pretty close to a 50-50 situation here on live betting odds in terms of who's going to win, whether it's going to be the Bengals or the Ravens. And that pass falls incomplete. So I'm going to guess the Ravens will kick a field goal here. John Harbaugh, I have an expected field goal model where, based on the down distance, win probability, etc., what is the probability that a team will kick a field goal versus go for it versus punt? And that takes like the league average, and John Harbaugh is way above league average on kicking field goals. And I guess that's what happens when you have Justin Tucker.
Well, I was going to say, if there's any team that probably should rank first, if not in the top 3, it would be the Baltimore Ravens.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is no doubt the Baltimore Ravens should be ranking among the league elite with arguably probably the best kicker of all time, the GOAT, Justin Tucker. And so the Baltimore Ravens do take a 1-point lead. And that means the live odds now are actually still slightly favoring the Bengals because the Ravens did not score a touchdown. So that's gonna be interesting because now we're in this situation. Baltimore leads.
Yes, they do.
But they're not favored to win. And I've found through all of my Bet What Happens Live shows that I've done throughout this year, I every Monday Night Football, every Thursday Night Football, when we have these situations where the underdog team is leading, but they're still a live underdog, the books, we can sometimes find some value because the books will think the team that is ahead should be running more, but what happens is later in the game they end up trailing as we expect, and then they end up throwing more. So there's often a lot of counterintuitive value. There may be counterintuitive value on these Ravens overs, like we talked about, Isaiah Likely potentially over on his receiving yards, because we're in that counterintuitive spot where the Bengals are still favored. So if we look at the live odds per Bet365, the Cincinnati Bengals are still a 63% favorite to win the game, which is actually even more than I expected. And that's despite them trailing by 1. Now they're going to get the ball here. There's 7 seconds left, maybe potentially less time if they make a return here. And there is a little bit of time will run off the clock because Baltimore intentionally kind of not squib kicked it, but kicked it up the middle, to run some clock here and force the Bengals to probably just have to kneel. The Bengals could try one play here, but We've seen some
Only
disastrous
bad
plays.
things can happen.
They're
Do
not
do
they're
that.
not in Hail Mary range, so that's the main thing. If they're in Hail Mary range, I'd have no problem with them throwing it to the end zone, but not in Hail Mary range, so we could just see a kneel. Yeah, they are in the kneeling formation, so we do go into halftime officially with the Baltimore Ravens leading the Cincinnati Bengals by a score of 10-9. So, bet what happens live. Gilles, the player props are going to start opening up.
Absolutely. Here
Where would you like to look first?
Interceptions.
Interceptions.
I want to be looking at Joe Burrow because I'm seeing Joe Burrow right now around plus 230, plus 235 for an interception, whereas Tyler Huntley to throw a second interception is around the plus 185 range.
All right, so we are showing plus 230
On
as
the
the
dot.
projection on the dot for Joe Burrow.
The
And
projections work.
And Tyler Huntley, we are actually also showing in that plus 230 range, crazy enough. And I think that's because, the Ravens are leading. So even though they're leading and the gap is going to open up, we expect where Cincinnati should eventually take the lead. That means we would think Tyler Huntley would throw it more and it would make his interception odds more favorable.
Probably not the case with Tyler Huntley.
But he could also just run a whole lot.
Exactly.
So, Baltimore's a run-heavy team. So, unfortunately, no interception value. But if you're a gambling guy, you may still want to take that Joe Burrow INT
because it has slightly increased at bet365. It's plus 235, so you might get a little
so
nickel of value here.
Yeah, there's a nickel. Hey, I got a nickel of value on J.K. Dobbins.
And that's worked.
Exactly.
Sometimes you take the value how you get it.
Yeah, so if you want to take that, you can, or we could keep looking.
Well, let's keep looking. And one of the guys that I immediately want to look at is Isaiah Likely for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing him right now at 14-1.
Look at that. 1,400.
Do not doubt math.
We're 1,400 right on the dot for Isaiah Likely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. Always shop around and see what value you can get.
Let's pivot then, because right now the leading receiver for the Ravens is Josh Oliver.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing his anytime touchdown odds at 28-1.
We're definitely not there on Josh Oliver. Okay. We're way above that. But I really like that Likely one, just because
it's right on the nose.
Yeah, well, and Tyler Huntley, 4 of his 5 career touchdown passes prior to that J.K. Dobbins reception
all tight ends.
Were to tight ends. 3 of them to Mark Andrews all last year, and then 1 earlier this year to Isaiah Likely. But let's pivot to that Isaiah Likely receiving yard prop that you were talking about. What is the live line on his receiving yard prop? Because I do have a feeling we'll show some overvalue on these Ravens receivers.
This is odd. He is off the board right now, and the line was around 5.5 before the half ended, and they have not put it back up yet, so we might not be able to take advantage of that right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go through some of these other, while we're at it, let's go through some of the other Ravens receiving yard props. Just start spouting them out, and I will pop them in here just to see if we show any overvalue.
Okay, so obviously the first guy you want to look at is Mark Andrews. Yeah. His over-under is at 39.5, and he has 13 receiving yards at halftime.
39.5 for Mark Andrews, and we are showing 57.8% to the over here. Let's look at Demarcus Robinson if we have that.
Seeing it at 20.5, he only has 8 receiving yards so far, but a 12-yard reception or a 13-yard reception rather would put him over fairly easily.
Also showing overvalue there. So this is interesting. Let's go to Tyler Huntley's passing yards.
Tyler Huntley. Right now, he's got 70 passing yards
Yes.
at halftime. I'm seeing 147.5. So they're basically saying he's going to duplicate that effort in the second half.
And we're projecting him for 158.5. Plus, the Ravens are starting with the ball. So this is a spot maybe we could, instead of picking a receiver, we could safely take Huntley, or we could go with a receiver because we're actually showing more value on Demarcus Robinson's over than Andrews' over, and more value on his over than Huntley. So, there's possibility there. We'll circle back to that before halftime ends because these should be pretty static lines at this point.
Yes.
And Gilles, where do you want to go next?
Well, I don't want to go. This is the last anytime touchdown bet I want to bring up, but just Mark Andrews, obviously with the plus 550 right now for an anytime touchdown. I'm wondering if there's any value on that at this point.
Plus 564.
Man.
We're like right on the market with these touchdown lines, but the yardage lines we're showing value on the overs here for the Ravens. Now, I want to pivot again to Cincinnati, because we're in that counterintuitive situation where Baltimore's leading, but we're showing value in the receiving overs because we do think they'll trail eventually. Let's do the same thing for Cincinnati. Maybe there's value on the rushing overs for Cincinnati, or maybe there's value on the under, depending on the player.
Well, it's Joe Mixon, obviously, if you're looking for a rushing over right now. It's sitting at 44.5. Joe Burrow at 3.5, and Samaje Perine at 8.5.
Joe Burrow 3.5, Samaje Perine 8.5. We're showing over value on all three Bengals. All three Bengals there for the rushing yard overs. Now, I think an interesting one would be Samaje Perine. Right now, he does have two rushing yards, but if they are trailing, he could come in as the receiving back, and then they run a rushing play with him to kind of surprise, a little draw play or something like that. So of these, while I like all of them, I think I like Perine the most, and we're showing the most value on Joe Burrow's over, but we are showing 67% value on Perine's over and 60% value on Mixon's over. This is a spot, again, where we could potentially wait for the Ravens this possession, because if they score and open it up even more, we still think the Bengals should come back. But I don't want to do that. We're already in that spot where the Ravens are ahead. So they're going to be ahead regardless of what happens on this possession. So I am personally going to take Samaje Perine over 8.5 rushing yards.
Lock it in.
67% value to the over. So first bet of Bet What Happens Live for Ravens versus Bengals, Samaje Perine over 8.5 rushing yards. Gilles, what's up next?
Okay, well, I am seeing Joe Burrow's interception line continue to climb.
Is it?
And now it's at plus 240. And I'm kind of getting to a point now, especially if the Ravens go down. I'm wondering, though, if maybe we should wait and hold off to see what the Ravens do on that opening drive, or maybe we get a little bit more value on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is possible. The thing to consider is if the Ravens score, then obviously the Bengals will have to pass more, and the line will adjust. So,
of course.
That makes it more likely for him to throw an interception, so you'd get better odds there. But time would run off the clock, so that would eat away a little bit. Now, if the Bengals don't score, then we're kind of in the same situation we are now, where we still expect if the Ravens don't score, we're in the spot where we expect the Bengals to continue to grab the lead, but they are playing from behind. So it's while it's like the first possession, I don't know if it matters too much.
Okay, so let's then maybe look at the Joe Burrow passing yards, because obviously that was one of the biggest ways that they could exploit this defense, is that the Ravens have given up the top 5 yards to both receivers and receptions as well. So right now I'm seeing his passing yards at 266.5. He has 122 yards at halftime.
We are showing value on the under here, 57% under, and they're not starting with the ball. Especially if the Ravens don't score here, the under, I think, is a great spot for Joe Burrow.
Well, and it's what we saw as well, that last drive, that was like a 12-play, double-digit drive, right? And just kind of killing the clock there, especially with the way that they're running the ball. So, maybe we want to take an under on Burrow here.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do. And that also correlates with the over on rushing, potentially, for the Bengals. Now, one other thing I do want to mention, the pace splits. My colleague Billy Ward, Predictive Analyst at the Action Network. These teams play a little bit slower in the second half, and the slow pace continues if the Ravens lead or if it's a close game. So that also leads to unders because there will be fewer plays. So I'd like that Joe Burrow under. I might just take that as well, but I do think I want to wait for this first drive of the second half. If the Bengals have a quick 3 and out, we'll have a little bit of opportunity to pounce on that under for Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So, if it looks like it gets to 2nd and long or 3rd and long, that's where I want to take that Joe Burrow under. Because while it is an under and we're showing value, it's 57%, which is clear of the 52.4% you need at minus 110 odds. But I want that little bit of extra reassurance that the Bengals or the Ravens aren't going to open it up further, and then the Bengals are going to have to throw more. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait to that first drive. So we'll be live through that first drive, at least until we see maybe a 2nd and long or a 3rd and long, and then I could lock in that bet.
Now, from a touchdown scorer perspective, the wide receivers on the Bengals, both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins would be the guys that we want to look at. Right now, they're having Jamar Chase to get his second touchdown at plus 200, but T. Higgins to have just a touchdown, just under plus 300 at plus 290.
Yeah, so you said plus 200 for Chase.
To get his second touchdown.
Yeah, we're showing plus 281, and T. Higgins, we're showing plus 420
Smoke him
for
and
his touchdown odds right now. And you know why? It's because we still think the Bengals will take the lead, and then they need to throw less if they do that.
Of course.
So another counterintuitive situation there where the books have pushed lines down, thinking, oh, well, the Bengals are behind, so they're going to have to throw a whole lot more. But later in the game, they won't. So another one of those double-edged swords there. What about Samaje Perine's anytime touchdown odds?
So Samaje, I am seeing him at plus 650.
Plus 650, no value there, unfortunately, for Perine. And then Mixon.
Mixon right now, same odds as Burrow, plus 200.
Yeah, and so Mixon we're showing plus 210, 215 in that neighborhood. So no value on the anytime touchdowns. So right now, no anytime touchdown value.
And that's okay.
We're showing about 10 cents of value on the Joe Burrow interception prop, and I've taken Samaje Perine over 8.5 rushing yards. I'm showing 67% value to the over, 67% likely, I should say, to go over. Anything else you want to look at right now, Gilles?
Yeah, the only other one that I was going to look at was maybe a Gus Edwards under.
Gus Edwards under. I like it.
And the reason being is just because we're seeing how effective J.K. has looked in this offense. And if the Ravens are going to want to stick in this game, they're going to have to give J.K. as many opportunities as possible,
Certainly.
I think. So right now, seeing his rushing yards, let me just grab this here, at 20.5.
20.5.
Well, sorry, no, 30.5. My bad.
30.5.
I need glasses. I'm 38. I'm sorry.
30.5 for Gus Edwards.
And he's got 23 right now at halftime.
Yeah, we're actually showing overvalue there.
Of course.
By 64%.
As soon as I said it out loud, I was like, there's going to be an overvalue.
Well, let's do JK as well because, you know, this
so
is a counterintuitive spot.
Is 69.5. Nice.
Undervalue there.
All right.
Yeah. So, again, that counterintuitive spot. And that means, you know, we're in a really good situation here. But one thing that I do know that I just saw, second half touchdown, Joe Mixon is plus 240 for a second half touchdown instead of an anytime touchdown. So that's one of those things where we always want to shop around and look at the second half touchdown market instead of the anytime touchdown market, just because sometimes these books, you know, they have what are essentially the same prop but listed in multiple ways, and they may be priced a little bit differently. So Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, it looks like they've got different second half touchdown odds. Let's get at those real quick. Just read them off.
Yeah, so they were each plus 200 before we write off. Actually, Mixon for a second half touchdown plus 240, Chase at plus 250.
Okay, so Mixon, we are showing value on that second half touchdown. Again, because we think the Bengals will eventually take the lead, they could have a late rushing touchdown.
Absolutely.
What about any others you want to look at real quick as we are almost at the start of the third quarter?
Yeah, and it kind of just went off the board as we were talking.
Oh, no.
You know, so not a big deal, but I mean, at the same time, I think the only prop that I like, I think I'm going to take that Burrow interception. Just with, I know that obviously the passing yards may be down, but I think that would correlate. If the passing yards go under, it's likely because an interception.
So plus 240 for Gilles. Joe Burrow interception, over half an interception, I should say, over half an interception. I was thinking he threw one earlier, but that was Huntley who threw one earlier. So over half an interception, plus 240 for Joe Burrow for Gilles' pick. And we're going to watch this first drive, right? Like I said, if it gets into third and long or second and long, then I really want to attack that value on potentially Joe Burrow's under on his passing yards.
Yes. And right now, it was
266.5.
And it just went up to 268.
268.5. Beautiful. We like that. That's what we want to see. We want to see it keep climbing.
Okay, let's see what we do on a kickoff here. And we're down. Okay.
All right, so 268.5. That means we are at 58% value on the under for Joe Burrow. Plus the Bengals do not have the ball. And if the Bengals can come up with a stop here, I like that a lot. The other thing remember that high pressure rate that Joe Burrow has faced, and now he's lost a couple linemen, another lineman.
He's been sacked 3 times in the
Yeah,
first half.
he's been sacked 3 times. I think that adds extra value to the under as well because he's going to be facing a lot of pressure. He may have to do some scrambles, which maybe we like that over on his rushing yards
And
then.
maybe get that touchdown.
Yeah, so let's keep an eye on that Joe Burrow receiving yards prop, and then we'll see what happens here on 1st and 2nd down.
Man, JK looks so good.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins looks very good. They rush for the 1st down here. That doesn't mean we're shutting it down yet because we could still see a 3rd and long here inside the Ravens territory on this next set of downs. So just looking at Joe Burrow, still at 268.5 on that passing yard prop, and looking to take that under, but we want to wait again for this maybe a 2nd and long or a 3rd and long here, or maybe a penalty on 1st down, something like that for the Ravens where they go back to 1st and 15.
Yeah, we have to hope the Ravens don't bleed the clock too much because then they're going to start to adjust that line down.
Exactly. So we want kind of a...
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
JK reception.
But it was a short one, so we're now in a 2nd and kind of long. And Joe Burrow, I think, has just climbed again to 269.5, if I am correct.
Yes, you are correct.
So 269.5 for Joe Burrow on his passing yards. He actually climbed there, which is, again, interesting, entertaining. As the time runs off, that's a good thing as well. So
yeah, I think it's going to hover between 265 and 270 as we go, because right now it dropped a couple yards down to 267.5.
Certainly. And so we're at 2nd and 7. I'm going to wait for this play, and then we'll lock it in because we're still going to show value at 267.5.
Yes.
267.5, and a little bit of time has run off the clock here, which is good. We are in a 3rd and long for the Baltimore Ravens. So I am taking under 200. Just jumped to 269.5.
Beautiful.
I'm clicking it right now. I'm taking under 269.5 passing yards for Joe Burrow as my 2nd bet on Bet What Happens Live. So I have 2 bets. You've got 1. Joe Burrow interception. I've got under 269.5 passing yards, and I have over 8.5 rushing yards for Samaje Perine. Those are our 3 bets for Bet What Happens Live. 1 for Gilles, 2 for me. That's 3 bets like our anytime touchdown picks.
Best way to do it.
And once again, thank you to Bet365 for sponsoring all of our Bet What Happens Live shows. We're going to wrap it up there for the Ravens and the Bengals, and we'll be back tomorrow. Be sure to tune in to Green Dot Daily at noon Eastern time, and then the final Bet What Happens Live of Wild Card Weekend will be at the 2-minute warning of the Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, your Dallas Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Good luck with your bets, and we'll see you tomorrow.